With Harley pricing the new Sportster S at around the $15,000 US mark, and after receiving comments on my last video with more suggested competitors, I started wondering about what else you could buy that had a bit of get up and go in this price category and how they might compare. So today I'm putting the new Sportster S up against the Triumph Bobber, Suzuki M109R, Honda CB1000R Black Edition, and Indian's FTR S model. For this video it's all about performance, so we're only going to compare horsepower, torque and weight. We'll then calculate the power to weight figures of each bike for torque and horsepower, including a 200 pound or 90 kilogram rider, and then I'm going to bring back my virtual drag strip and try to predict which of these gunners will be first across the quarter-mile finish line. If you're new here, welcome, I'm Paul, and this is Bikes I Like. This video's all about the numbers, so we're going straight to the graphs. First up is horsepower. The Triumph Bobber produces 77 horsepower at 6,100 RPM. The CB1000R produces 143 horsepower at 10,500 RPM. The Sportster S produces 121 horsepower at 7,500 RPM. The M109R produces 128 horsepower at 6,200 RPM. And the Indian FTR S produces 120 horsepower at a predicted 7,500 RPM. When it comes to horsepower, the CB1000R clearly leads, while the Triumph lags behind. The Sportster S sits neatly in the middle of the pack. Now to torque. The Triumph Bobber produces 78 foot-pound at 4,000 RPM. The CB1000R produces 76 foot-pound at 8,250 RPM. The Sportster S produces 94 foot-pound at 6,000 RPM. The M109R produces 118 foot-pound at 3,200 RPM. And the Indian FTR S produces 87 foot-pound at 6,000 RPM. Now when it comes to torque, the clear leader is the mighty M109R, and in this case, although it was king in horsepower, the CB1000R is starting to fall behind. The Sportster S is coming up in second place here, which is very surprising. And now, wet weight, ready to ride figures. The Triumph Bobber weighs in at 553 pounds, or 251 kilograms. That's heavier than I was expecting. The CB1000R weighs in at 471 pounds. The Sportster S weighs in at 502 pounds. The M109R weighs in at a sizable 764 pounds. And the Indian FTR S tips the scales at 514 pounds. The lightest of the bunch sees the CB1000R swing back to favour and lead the pack. Heaviest by a good margin is the M109R. This will hurt it in the power to weight calculations, coming up next. And the Sportster S is again in second place. Good work, Harley. Now that we have those all-important numbers, let's calculate each bike's power to weight figure for horsepower. As per usual, I'll be including a 200 pound or 90 kilogram rider. The Triumph measures at 0.102, the CB1000R calculates to 0.213, the Sportster S comes in at 0.172, the M109R measures 0.132, and the FTR S calculates to 0.168. When it comes to horsepower, power to weight, Honda takes the lead. Bringing up the rear is the Bonneville Bobber, and second place again goes to the Sportster S. I'm quite impressed. Keep in mind these figures are calculated with a 200 pound rider on board. Now, torque power to weight figures, again including a 200 pound rider. For torque, the Triumph measures at 0.103, the CB1000R calculates to 0.113, the Sportster S comes in at 0.133, the M109R measures 0.122, and the FTR S calculates to 0.121. Well, I'll be a monkey's uncle. The Sportster S takes out this category. Of these bikes, it has the best power to weight ratio for torque, even when including a rider. I'm stunned. I can't believe it's edging out the M109R. Last on the list is the Triumph Bobber. Its lower torque figures and weight are hurting it here. Now, armed with all this very interesting data, it's onto my virtual drag strip. To calculate how each bike might perform, I look at the power to weight figures for each bike for both horsepower and torque, and I factor in how early and where each bike is developing its peak horsepower and peak torque in the rev range. This helps me gauge how early they're delivering their power and who will be stronger up top. I then weigh it all up and predict how each bike might perform in relation to the other. And this is the result of that prediction. There you go. Is that who you thought would win? Now remember, this is only a prediction. I don't actually have the means to physically verify this result. Well, that was fun and for me very enlightening. The goal was to test the Sportster S's performance credentials against some keen opposition, and I must say it handled itself surprisingly well. In fact, it was impressive. If you'd like to see more videos like this, let me know below, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. Thanks for your company today, and hopefully I'll see all of you again in the next one. Bye for now.